Imagine growing up so poor that you wear dresses made from potato sacks to school, getting mocked for it by other kids. Now imagine surviving abuse no child should ever face, losing a baby at just 14 years old, and still going on to become one of the most powerful and influential women in the world. This is the story of Oprah Winfrey. She was born in 1954 in rural Mississippi to a teenage mother who wasn't ready or able to raise her. For the first 6 years of her life, she lived with her grandmother on a farm in extreme poverty without indoor plumbing. Her grandmother taught her to read at a very young age, which planted the first seed of the woman she'd eventually become. But things got far worse before they got better. As a young girl, she was sent to live with her mother in Milwaukee, and later with relatives, moving between households throughout her childhood. During this period, she suffered repeated sexual abuse at the hands of multiple family members and family friends, starting when she was just 9 years old. She has spoken publicly many times about the trauma of those years, abuse that went on for years, largely in silence, because she was too afraid and too ashamed to tell anyone. At 14 years old, she became pregnant. The baby, a boy, was born prematurely and died shortly after birth. Oprah has described this period of her life as one of the darkest, most painful chapters she ever lived through. Grief, shame, and trauma all colliding at an age when most kids are just starting high school. Struggling and considered by some relatives to be incorrigible, she was eventually sent to live with her father, Vernon Winfrey, in Nashville. It was here that things began to shift. Her father was strict but stable, and he pushed her hard academically, demanding she read books and write reports on them regularly. For the first time in her life, she had structure, consistency, and someone who believed she could become something more. She threw herself into school and public speaking, eventually earning a scholarship to college through a speech and oratory competition. At just 19 years old, while still a student, she became the youngest person and the first Black woman to anchor the news at a Nashville television station. Her early television career wasn't smooth either. She was fired from a reporting job in Baltimore for being, in her boss's words, too emotionally involved in the stories she covered. She cried on air once during a report. Many people in the industry saw this as a career-ending mistake. Instead, she was moved to a low-rated, struggling daytime talk show, mostly as a demotion. That struggling show became AM Chicago. Within months, using the very same emotional, personal connection that had gotten her fired before, she turned it into the highest-rated talk show in the city, outperforming even Phil Donahue, the biggest name in daytime television at the time. It was renamed The Oprah Winfrey Show, and by 1986, it went national. Over the next 25 years, that show became the highest-rated daytime talk show in American television history. Oprah didn't stop there. She built a media empire spanning television production, publishing, a namesake magazine, and eventually her own television network, OWN. Today, Oprah Winfrey is one of the most influential media figures in modern history, and one of the wealthiest self-made women in the world, a billionaire who came from a childhood defined by poverty, abuse, and loss that most people could never imagine surviving, let alone rising above. The very trait that got her fired early in her career, being deeply, openly emotional, became the exact quality that made her one of the most connected to, trusted voices in television history.